37. Okay, where is Treaty 4? So if you go to page 2 in the newspaper, you'll see the map. Treaty 4 news. See that map? The 3 provinces, and the orange part is Treaty 4. So I thought, I'll make that my territory. I'll focus on that. And then I started having to think in my business plan, okay, so you got your territory. Now, is there a market for that? Is there a need? Are people going to want to support this newspaper? So I decided, okay, let's test it out. So last April I printed up and published an 8-page sample edition called the Introductory Edition of Treaty 4 News. Printed out 1,000 copies, mailed them to the band offices in the Treaty 4 territory, went past them out every place I went, and started getting some feedback. And the feedback was fairly positive. People were saying, you know, it's about time that we had our own newspaper. Like they already took ownership of the newspaper, like our. So I figured, okay, I think I might be onto something here. So I had a market, and I found a need in that market. And that's something you need to do in business when you're developing your business plan, is find a market. Like going back to the hot dog stand, you know, if you're out at Canadian Tire, there's really no demand there. So there's no demand for your product. Now if you go downtown, there's a huge demand because there's more people. Lots of people don't pack lunch, they just go down the street and find something quick and get back to their office, and a hot dog does that. So like the newspaper, I had to find a demand, and I found that they need a communication vehicle in Treaty 4. And a newspaper is the start of that. So develop that. Now I needed to develop a brand. Like I said, at first I was the brand, but now I needed to come up with a logo and a brand. The brand is Treaty 4 News, the logo is this. So I needed to push that out there and get people to know about it. I've done what I think is quite a bit of work promoting it, but yet I find that I still have way more work ahead of me to keep promoting it and to get the word out there. Because still, not a lot of people know about it. It's still, I'll call it a secret. It's not a secret, but it's still a secret. So it's going to take some time to get people to become regular readers of it. So now I needed to figure out distribution for the newspaper. How am I going to distribute this? And when I was writing my business plan, I wrote up these things about, okay, you'll load up your truck and you'll drive to every reserve and you'll drop them off. And then I started thinking, okay, the truck's pretty heavy on gas, so let's figure this out. So I figured out how much miles it was, how many tanks of gas I was going to go, and I soon realized that's a pretty expensive method. I'm not going to survive very long. So I started thinking, okay, maybe put them on the bus in bundles and bus them out there. Again, I did the research and found out that, okay, it's a lot less than driving it by truck myself. And then I went to Canada Post and I started digging around at Canada Post, and I found that out of those 3 options, Canada Post is probably the best way to go. And then a month before I was launching my June issue, Canada Post jacked up their rates by, 25%, I think. So it was like, oh no, this is an unexpected charge, an unexpected cost. So in your planning, you always need to prepare for worst case scenarios. What happens if the rates of Canada Post increase? Are you budgeted for that? Okay, so that's one thing that I learned. So I got my distribution figured out now. And I have certain areas that I've targeted for my distribution. Areas where I want it to grow, and areas where I think advertisers will be more likely to advertise in it because the paper is going to these places. Now, selling ads, I've never sold anything before, other than maybe a couple cars, put them on Kijiji and the guy comes over and, you should sell him your car, huh? I think that's probably what I've sold, at least so I thought. But then I started thinking, with all of this stuff, my career plan, all I've ever really sold, I shouldn't say all I've ever, but what I sold throughout my whole career has been me. When I go into a classroom and I go and meet the prof, introduce myself to the prof, I'm selling myself to the prof. Maybe not for a price, but I'm introducing myself and I'm showing the prof that I'm very interested in learning from the professor, and that I'm engaged, and that I'm interested in getting good grades. When I go for a job interview, I'm selling myself. When I went for my journalism school board, I was selling myself. So I've had lots of experience selling myself. When I worked in newsrooms and I'd pick up the phone and I'd call somebody, I was selling myself because I needed them to talk to me. I needed them to be able to trust me. And I had to close that deal down in less than a minute to get them and convince them that it's in their best interest that they spill their guts to me. Why anybody would want to do that is beyond me, huh? But I managed to be able to get them to do that convincing. There was one time I was chasing this story, and this guy was really reluctant to talk because his lawyer was advising him not to talk. And I called this guy up, and we're talking, and all of a sudden the power went out, and the phone went dead. I thought the guy hung up on me. So I just got really, really livid with him, and I was mad. I was like, how dare he hang up? So I redialed him, and the phone rang, and rang, and rang, and it went to voicemail, and I thought, he's not even answering his phone now, I'll just leave a message for him, huh? So I left a message on his machine, huh? I didn't swear at him or anything, but what I said to him was, here's why you need to talk to me, and here's why you need to tell your story. I'm doing a story, and about 1 million people are going to view this story because this is going to be carried on CBC's National. They usually average about 1 million people per night. So people need to know your side of the story, and who knows, what you have to say may result in solving the death of your friend. But nobody's ever going to know if you don't call me back and if you don't do this interview. So hopefully I hear back from you, and I hung up. Next morning he phones. Hi Merv, it's Jason. I'm really sorry, but the power went off and my phone went down and I couldn't finish calling. Yeah, I'll do your interview, he said. And then I said to him, did you listen to the message? What message? He says, you never listened to my message. But I thought my message got him to call me back, But the point of that story is you're always trying to sell yourself on everything you do. Job interviews, your assignments with your boss. You're always trying to promote yourself. So selling ads is a little different, but it's a lot of the same. Really, I'm selling myself and I'm selling the paper to the people. I'm not really selling that little section in the paper. I'm selling them, look, come and do business with me. I got a good product here. People like my product. They'll listen to it. They'll read my product, and in turn they'll read your ad. Well, how do we know it's going to work? Because here's why, and I start telling them about me and my story, how I got to here, why I'm doing this. And they hear the passion, they hear, my goals and how much I believe in this, that they decide, I can believe in you, we'll go with you. So that's what you're doing throughout your career, is that you're constantly getting people to believe in you, same as your business. So one of the questions that I always seem to get when I started this newspaper, when I go out, is, well, are you online? Do you got a website? And in my initial business plan, I thought I'd build a website a couple of years into it. I'd get the hard copy established, and I would build that up and then have a website, and more or less just to keep people off my back. But as I'm going out there, and as the more people I talk to, and the more numbers I'm starting to see about other websites for news organizations, and watching some documentaries and different things, I'm realizing I need to have a website now. In fact, I should have had a website from day one. It's not too late. I've only been around for a few months. So I put up a website last week. So if you guys want to check it out, it's treaty4news.com. Have a look at that. Because the future of newspapers will always be printed. People can say what they want about them, but newspapers will always be printed because people need to know where to look online. The newspaper will tell them where to look online for different things. And once you get them online, then you got to direct them back to your website. But newspapers are there because newspapers set the record. When it's written in a newspaper, it's there forever. You know, I love collecting old newspapers. I got old Rolling Stones at my place. I got some historic events.